Hello and welcome to the Source One podcast. Consider us your source for the latest procurement, supply management, and strategic sourcing insights, anytime, anywhere.
I've had quite a few conversations about data granularity with organizations seeking to conduct a spend analysis. One of the common questions I'm asked is, how do we know if we have enough detail? I understand exactly where this question comes from. We live in a world where collecting and storing huge amounts of data is commonplace. In the context of a spend analysis, however, I reject it. I think a much healthier question to ask at this early stage is, how do I know if I have too much? A lot of people used to live by the words, less is more. They opted to simplify in order to underscore and emphasize a priority. It was a simple, efficient philosophy that often yielded results. Yet now we live in a world where having more is cheaper and easier than ever before. Surely the less is more crowd only felt that way because it didn't have the tools and big data capabilities that we have today, right? Again, I reject this notion. I agree that technological strides have in fact made collecting massive amounts of data easier. But procurement doesn't exist to collect data simply for the sake of filling up a data warehouse. We're here to accomplish a mission: develop a clear, concise picture of where money is spent, with who, and how often. Then, we're going to take that clear, concise picture and use it to identify key strategic sourcing initiatives. I'm getting conceptual, so let me provide an example. Consider your latest office supplies purchase. That seemingly simple order contains a lot of data. You have pens, pencils, paper clips, notebooks, and a dozen other line items. Digging into just one of these items, I have black versus blue pens, felt tip versus ballpoint, name brand versus store generic, on contract versus off contract, and the list goes on, just for the pens. For a simple office supplies order, there are a lot of data points to consider. Or are there? Think about all those data points in relation to our goal. Is our office supply spend a viable candidate for a strategic sourcing project? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We won't know that until a spend analysis is complete. But I can tell you with absolute certainty that the answer isn't hidden in the color of my pen's ink, how thick a line it makes, or any of the other myriad points of data we could collect. If we thought about spend analysis as a map, then we have a few options for the type of map we want to create. First, consider the topographical map. For those of you who weren't in the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts as kids, topographical maps are full of details. They show elevation lines, man-made or natural structures, forested areas, and more. This is great detail, but I can't really use any of it to get from here to St. Louis. Now, consider the lowly road map you can pick up from any gas station. This thing has 3 colors: blue for water, yellow for land, and red lines for roads. Can't get much simpler than that. But you know what? I can use it to get from here to St. Louis, and avoid driving into any lakes or rivers to boot. So the next question is, what are those few basic details that are critical to a spend analysis? I would start by considering these 4 high-level qualities. Product similarity. How similar are any of the goods or services being procured? Can I group them by the types of suppliers that offer them? Like suppliers. What differentiates my suppliers in the context of these products? Are their cost structures, SLAs, or contract terms similar? Do they offer similar value adds? Sourcing strategies. Are there any similarities in how I would go to market for one product or another? For example, can I group together products that would do well in a market basket together? Is there a group that I could consider as part of a GPO agreement? Projected savings. Given my strategy options, can I place products into savings range buckets? Are my savings ranges relatively low or high? Are the ranges relatively wide or tight? Let's continue with our office supplies example. I would consider all the products mentioned earlier to be pretty similar insofar as office supplies go. I'd also consider Staples, Office Depot, or WB Mason to be pretty similar based on how they conduct their business and structure their agreements. I know that a combination of product substitution, supplier consolidation, and market events like an RFQ will drive cost savings. I also know how critical our push to drive adherence to an on-contract list will be to ensure those savings are realized. Offhand, based on historical initiatives, I can expect a savings range of somewhere between 10% to 20% of my annual spend for this effort. For all these reasons, we're going to group these suppliers and products simply. We'll call them all administrative expense office supplies, and we'll consider whether or not 10% to 20% of that consolidated total is worth going to market. That determination only needs to consider the collective spend with Staples and WB Mason. I don't need any more detail than that right now. Everything above notwithstanding, I truly do believe there's a time and place to look at more granular detail during a sourcing event. Once we've identified a path forward towards savings, we can go nuts identifying all the best pens to include in our market basket. But to put the cart before the horse and do this kind of deep, granular analysis now makes no sense. We don't even know where we want our strategy to go yet. Going overboard now is minimally a waste of time and, at worst, puts us at a risk for paralysis by analysis. Either way, we're setting ourselves up for a lost opportunity cost. So, as we begin our spend analysis journey, let's all keep the less is more mantra in mind.
You've been listening to the Source One podcast. For more strategic sourcing and procurement insights every day, visit our blog, The Strategic Sorcerer. Want to provide feedback or suggest a topic for a future episode? Let us know at prrequest@sourceoneinc.com. Thanks for listening.